No Miami Dolphins fan expected Jack Jones to be a top-tier corner for the Miami Dolphins this season. But here we are after the bye week, heading into week 13, and through the first 11 games of the season, Jack Jones has been a revelation for the Miami Dolphins. And no one expected this because he wasn't on the roster going into training camp. If you remember, the Dolphins signed him on July 26th. That is during the first week of camp. The first 3 or 4 practices already happened, and then they signed him. They obviously had to deal with a couple injuries. Kader Kohou's the injury, Artie Burns' injury that kept him out for the year. So who knows? If those injuries to Kohou and Burns don't happen, maybe Jack Jones isn't a Dolphin. But he was signed the first week of training camp, and he has started every game for the Miami Dolphins. He really has been tremendous in terms of his ability to be on the football field, and for his play to be as good as it has been as well is quite the surprise, and it really is beneficial. Like, a lot of overturn in this corner room this year. You've had injuries to Juju Brents. You've had, obviously, we mentioned to Kohou and Artie Burns, Cornell Armstrong. You've just had people in and out. And Jones and Douglas have been there for the most part this season, manning down the ship, even when Storm Duck is out for an extended period of time. Like, Jason Moser Jr. was out for a time. Like, the corners behind Jack Jones and Douglas are so bad. Thank goodness that these two have been able to stay healthy for the most part and play good football, or Miami's defense would somehow be even worse than it is right now. And I want to show Jack Jones some love in case he's seeing this video on his timeline. I want him to know the Dolphins fans are appreciative of the great season he's put together after not being here until late July. Hit that thumbs up icon to show Jack Jones some love. Good stuff from Jack. I mean, you look at his numbers from this season, he's only allowing a completion percentage of 56.7. Like, how good is that, folks? And only a yards per catch of about 9.4. Like, he has been really rock solid for the Fins this year. Not only in his ability to be on the field, but his play on the field. And if you look at NFL corners and you look at the qualified corners in the NFL, there's about 77 of them that fit the right snap percentages. If you rank his coverage stats compared to everybody else's, he's been a borderline CB1. At least he's a top half. Because he's 25th in completion percentage, he's 10th in yards per catch, 38th in QB rating when targeted, and 18th in tight window percentage, which means when quarterbacks are throwing to Jack Jones, there's a lot of tight windows. It's very contested most of the time. He's got about a 32.1 tight window percentage. And you look at his PFF ranks and grades on the entire year, out of those same qualified corners, he's top half overall, top half in coverage, or just around a half. And the most, surprising part of it all, in my opinion, is the fact that he's been the 8th highest graded run defending corner. He has been really good setting the edge and laying some big-time hits on running backs and ball carriers, which is something he did not do very well when he was with the Raiders and Patriots early on in his career. I've just been really impressed with what Jack Jones has brought to the table week in, week out. He's got a lot of passion. He's fiery. He's confident. And he knows what to do, and he's really fit well in this Anthony Weaver system. But if we're going to even dissect his play even more, he has really turned it on since week 7. He has taken his play up another notch. If you just look at the 56 qualified cornerbacks that have registered enough snaps since week 7, Jack Jones is 4th, 5th, 8th, 10th, and 9th in all of these respective stats, that being overall in coverage grade, completion percentage, yard per catch, and QB rating when targeted. He has been a top 10 corner in football from week 7 to week 11. It has been absolutely phenomenal to watch. And he's played so well, we now have to have a conversation about if the Dolphins need to re-sign him this upcoming offseason. Because obviously when the Dolphins signed him so late in July, it was on just a 1-year vet min type of deal. Well, should Miami bring him back? We're going to talk about that here in a second, but it's the pinned comment on today's show. You be the GM for me. Should the Miami Dolphins re-sign Jack Jones? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I absolutely would. I don't see much of a downside from bringing Jack Jones back. Assuming Anthony Weaver is still the defensive coordinator, if he signs off on wanting to bring him back because he knows the defensive scheme and he knows what Jack Jones' strengths and limitations are, well then, yeah, let's bring back Jack. And you don't really have much under contract next year. There's only 3 players under contract for the Miami Dolphins at the cornerback position for the 2026 year. And it's Storm Duck, it's Jason Marshall Jr., and Juju Brents. Remember when the Dolphins claimed Juju Brents on roster cutdown day? Claiming a player means you basically take on that entire contract, which had 1 year left on that second round contract he earned when he was drafted in the second round in 2023. So there's going to be a lot of additions to this cornerback room in the offseason, whether it just be like depth guys to compete in training camp and then be in the preseason, or if it's guys intended to be actually on the 53-man roster. And if you're asking me my plan at cornerback with those 3 that you already have, there's not a lot of known there. You feel good about the future maybe of Juju Brents, and you'd like to see more from Jason Marshall Jr., but there's not a lot of known in that CB room. So I would sign Jack Jones to a 1-year deal, though, because Jack Jones is a very volatile player, and I don't want to get caught with my hand in the cookie jar trying to steal more out of him and give him like a 2-3-year deal. No, play it year by year. Do that. I would sign him to a 1-year deal, and then I'd probably add another 2 corners, whether it be in free agency or in the draft. To me, I don't think you can guarantee Storm Duck a roster spot next year, but you can guarantee Jason Marshall Jr., you can guarantee Juju Brents. So, to me, when you look at some of the available corners that you could possibly have, I think these are some options that you look at in the draft and potentially go that route. Like Jamel Dean, Greg Newsome, Cater Coe, and Nic Rohloff are all interesting free agents at a relatively young age. Jamel Dean might be a little bit more pricey, and he might be a little too old to invest a lot of money into him with the current state of the roster. But if you wanted to go draft in the first or second round, Mansour Delane from LSU is my favorite corner, but I also love Jamad McCoy, Avion Terrell, and Chris Johnson from San Diego State. Like, the point is, when you look at the potential cornerback room for Miami next year, Duck, Marshall Jr., and Brents probably will all be here, but I don't think there's a guarantee with Duck. But you bring back Jack Jones, who will be 28 next season. You sign a free agent, and you draft one in the first 3 rounds. You have 5 picks in the top 100. Utilize one of those on a corner, and you can either have all 6 of those aforementioned people, or you can have the rookie or rookie compete with like Jason Marshall Jr., Storm Duck for a roster spot, potentially. But if you take them in the top 100, they're definitely going to be guaranteed a spot at least 1 year through. So to me, like, that is how I would address the cornerback room for the Miami Dolphins. And we're going to talk more about this room here in a second. But if you want more Miami Dolphins content for free, hit that sub button. Join us here at the channel for daily content. You also can't forget and you can't neglect Rasul Douglas. Another 1-year deal that Miami signed right before the season began, because Douglas actually has been better than Jack Jones. And that's crazy to say, because Jack Jones has been really, really freaking good. Douglas was signed on roster cutdown day, and he has put up better numbers, as I mentioned. He has a completion percentage when targeted of 57.5. He's only allowed 8.9 yards per catch. A QB rating when targeted of 79.6. So, like, if you compare numbers between Douglas and Jones, Douglas has been slightly better. And when you look at his ranks in the NFL in completion percentage, yard per catch, QB rating, he ranks inside the top 30 in those 3 statistics. Meaning he has basically been a CB1 in the National Football League this year. And when you look at the metrics, you look at the analytics, you look at the tape, you watch the games on a week in, week out basis, and it's hard to disagree with that take, right? Douglas has been that freaking good. We got more to get to here, but the holiday season is officially here, folks. And if you want to get the perfect gift, well, here's a great Dolphins PJ set. Comfortable pants, long sleeve shirt. Was $69 for the duo pack. Now it's only $42 when you go to chatsports.com/DolphinsPJ set. Links in the description and comments to today's video. You want to be the person that's looked at as like, oh, that was a good gift? Well, here's an option for you. I mean, you look at the PFF ranks for Douglas on the year, not to continue to hammer home the same point, but he's been a top 30 corner in the NFL this year. He's the 6th highest graded guy out of corners to play at least 350 snaps. 10th in coverage grade, 26th in run defense. Like, I can't really fathom this. What an absolute shock. What if I told you that the Dolphins going into the season were going to have 2 top 30 cornerbacks in the NFL? You would have looked at me sideways and said, what shrooms are you on, and where can I find some for myself? Because no one would have saw this coming. I mean, one of those 2 being a top 40 guy, sure. 2 of them being top 30? No way. No way. And I'll say this as well. Like, I wonder if Rasul Douglas is brought back. Now, I think it's incredibly unlikely because he is going to be about 30 years old. New regime coming in. And you wonder if Douglas would even want to be here with a roster that probably isn't going to contend for a Super Bowl as Douglas gets a little bit older into his career. Maybe he gets signed by a more contending team after they saw how good he was for the Dolphins this season. But the point I'm trying to make is, like, the ability to find these corners and players that impact winning so cheap on one-year deals, that's just massive, massive stuff. And you wonder if they will bring back Jack Jones and Rasul Douglas. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. We appreciate everybody for hanging on here with us. Enjoy your holiday week. Enjoy Thanksgiving. But we're going to continue to bring you videos every single day. And we'll be here live on Sunday for Dolphins Saints. So make sure you subscribe and join us.